yesterday, and then I took a big pill, and then I have back pain. But let's do this because otherwise I will not commit to myself. So this is really for me to try to, you know, do some sports because this is never what I do. So let's try. And I will put some music from Pixabay again because it's kind of cool and well, you know, let's try to do this. It's better if you can see this one. So it's like what? Let's put the watch. 8:57. Let's put workout. Indoor cycling. I was trying to watch some news today, what's going on, because it's like kind of crazy. But well, let's do Pixabay, I think, here, so we can have some music too. So if you go to Pixabay, you can choose any music you want. It's free copyright. So I put it in there. Search for music a bit. Let's see what it says. And music. Now we go to next page. And next page. Let's see. Wow, it's terrible. No, in fact, I don't want music. I still have like a headache, so let's not do that. I'd rather read the news. So what's going on today? If I go to the news, and I go to Google News. And again, Palestinian and Israel fight. Rudy Farias, missing teen found in Houston, Texas, 8 years later. Oh, that's a good news. What's going on? What happened? So, more than 8 years after he was reported missing as a Houston 18-year-old boy, a Texas man was found alive this weekend with cut, bruises, and blood in his hair. Rudy Farias was last seen on March 6, 2015, and he was 18 years old. At the time he was missing, a group said Farias was walking his dogs in a neighborhood in Northeast Houston. On Saturday, the Texas Center for the Missing said Farias had been located safe and was recovering in a hospital. Wow, that's crazy. Farias' mother told local news that someone called 911 after finding him unresponsive outside the church. He had cuts and bruises all over his body and blood in his hair. Farias' mom said he tried talking to him, but he would only say a few words and go into a fetal position. Oh, probably got very, I don't know, maltreated, and who knows. So Apple is planning a new Mac display. Skipping nightly toothbrushing could heighten cardiovascular disease risk. Ocean Gate's former finance director said she quit when Stockholm Rush asked her to be the Titanic submersible ship. Oh, that's interesting. Pilot after firing the original one for raising safety issue. That's a crazy deal because Ocean Gate, you know, they never take, well, I mean, his boss never took safety very seriously because he wanted to push boundaries. Stockton Rush. So she told the New York Times that she quit when he urged her to replace the former pilot. I would have quit too, for sure. That's a crazy story. Rush asked her about becoming the submersible head pilot after firing David Lockridge, the submarine pilot originally billed for the role. But Lockridge was initially sued by Ocean Gate in 2018, but he countersued the organization and alleged that he was fired after raising key concerns about the Titan's hull. And they were having like this legal fight. Soon after Lockridge was fired, Rush asked the finance director to fill in for the pilot. It tricked me out that he would want me to be a head pilot since my background is in accounting. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. She said didn't trust Rush because Lockridge was no longer working at Ocean Gate and quit her job as soon as she found a new role elsewhere. The former director added that some Ocean Gate engineers were teenagers when they worked for the company, while others were in their early 20s. Some of the engineers were also paid $15 an hour at one point. Okay. The Titan employed it, and I think that's crazy. Teenagers, low pay, and no safety. Migrant workers flee Florida as an immigration law takes effect. Well, I won't go to Florida either. West Hollywood minimum hourly wage tops $19 an hour, highest of any US city. So West Hollywood officially has the highest minimum wage on any US city after pay Zoom 19.08 an hour Saturday. Workers in West Hollywood welcome the increase amid rising rent, gas, and food prices. Also, employees grumbled about labor costs and that they couldn't drive them out of the business. Well, that is cool because everything is so expensive. West Hollywood, stuck between the cities of Beverly Hills and Los Angeles, and the minimum wage in Washington DC is 17. So, wage increase. For workers in Los Angeles hotels with 60 rooms or more, the minimum pay increase $19.23 an hour on Saturday. Hotel workers in Santa Monica also saw their pay climb to $19.73. Seattle had the highest minimum wage on January when the rate was $18.69. Well, this is good because everything is also more expensive. Oh, Lawrence Thurman, Oscar-nominated producer of The Graduate, that's 97. I love the guy. Raw milk legalized in more states despite public health concerns. That's a problem. Because raw milk can be dangerous. Okay. What else? Meghan Markle opens Harry fight back to the law. Donald Trump bombarded by protesters screaming, locking up. The painful way Shakira found out that Clara Shia Marty was her skinny girlfriend. Sophia Rich new outfit, 4th of July food, and how much some Purple can cost this year. So let's see that. So, 4th of July's parties all over the place. So let's see how much that costs. How much people will spend on protein the 1st of July. For making burgers, the cost of a pound of ground beef, an average of $5.36, has increased more than 1%. Trying a sirloin steak on the grill, meanwhile, will have a per pound price of $10.75, increase of 3%. Chicken breast, on the other hand, costs $4.24, dropping nearly 2% from last year. Some burger fixing will be more expensive this year, such as processed cheese, with a spike 10% to $4.77 per pound, and also 22% increase for some things like flour. Crazy to make cakes. So everything has gone very high. The report on other July 4th of jumping over. Potato chips at $6.45 per pound, with an increase of 15% in North Dakota. Eggs run about $2.67 for a dozen. For non-alcoholic beverage, the price of a 12-ounce soda average 54 cents. 14% year increase, and it's crazy. A pint of beer has become pricier compared to last year, climbing 8% to $1.74. Okay. Wine, meanwhile, has stayed relatively flat to $13.40 for a liter. I don't drink, so that's not for me. Sweets, like a gallon of ice cream, costs $5.81 a pound. Chocolate chips, cookies a pound, $5.15. Well, that's it for prices. How parents' sex and birth control talks with teens have changed since the end of Roe v. Wade. Well, I guess they have to. California road dance studio go viral on social media for dancing videos. That's kind of cool. Biden's parole program is the immigration success story we've been waiting for. Yes. But, you know, not for everyone. US judge hot healthcare bans for considered use. So that's cool. Madonna is home following hospitalization, so that was scary, so that's very cool. Barbie banned in Vietnam over dispute map scene. Okay, that's weird. Father dies after falling over 100 feet from an Oregon Trail cliff while hiking with family. That's scary. Prince William and Kate Middleton were responsible for royal response to Meghan and Harry's Oprah interview, for sure. Jennifer Lopez, red floral romper. I love Jennifer Lopez, and she is always so fashion forward and so cute. Who's giving HBO The Idol all of these 5 stars rating? I haven't seen The Idol, but I had the chance to work with the set people, and they bought from my store a bunch of stuff so they can decorate Lily's the room from when she was a kid, so that was kind of cool. I could design a bunch of stuff for them. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I know some people don't like it. So this is an article from Rolling Stone. What did he say? HBO series with The Weeknd and Lily Rose had been critically mauled. I don't know why. I think because there's sex scenes or something like that. They were in Cannes. The series about the self-described ceaseless love story in Hollywood starring global superstar alongside Lily Rose Depp was expected to drum up some discussion online, but the clamor around the idol might not have been exactly what Kingston had in mind. The show star power, sex appeal, creative team, and the big bucks of HBO reportedly shelled out for the 5-episode season still couldn't save it from harsh reviews, memes, and complaints of people plot and critics of depth, seemingly gratuitous sex scenes. After critics walked away from screening the first 2 episodes at Cannes, its tomato rating sat at a dismissal of 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's very bad, bad, bad. It didn't fare much better in the eyes of the wider public, and even those who work on the show have found it shockingly boring. Okay, but on social media, some now stop pitching of the half of sites some negative reviews according to large samples of Rotten Tomatoes audience reviews for The Idol, reviewed by Rolling Stone. The majority of positive reviews came from an influx of first-time reviewers in the first hour. Maybe they pay some, companies that you can pay so they write reviews for you. I don't know how much they pay, but I do some research. Only 9 came from users who had previously rated another show, meaning 98% of the rave reviews came from users who were posting their first review on Rotten Tomatoes. So that is very weird, very weird. Most of the users especially praise The Weeknd, Depp, or Black Prince Jenny in general. That's them here. So weird. They might have paid somebody or some company to write all these reviews. So it's making the biggest moves in the pre-market. Of course, Tesla shares popped nearly 7% after posting second quarter delivery production. Deliveries rose 83% over last year. Electric vehicle stocks. I used to work at the stock option in France. That's how I started, because I actually studied finance for 6 years. So I stopped because, well, a lot was going on in the banks, and I was thinking they were laundering money, which they were, because we were making all these big payments to other banks and no contracts were found. So very weird. So I quit to make a documentary in Venezuela. So anyways, go back to the stocks. Electric vehicle stocks rose broke after Tesla posted stronger than expected production and delivery numbers. Rivian added 3.2%. Fisker and Lucid gained more than 2% each. Xpeng, US listed shares of Chinese electric vehicle company, popped about 7% after beating its delivery forecast, unlodging a 27 quarter on increase. So that's a lot. Other China-based EV stocks, NIO, Li Auto, rose more than 4% each on solid delivery numbers, which is good considering the economy. Apple, iPhone's maker stock, dipped 0.4% following a report that Apple plans to scale back Vision Pro headset production. Apple shares closed above $3 trillion market cap on Friday, and Apple is the first company to be a $1 trillion market company. AstraZeneca shares of the drug maker fell 5.7% in pre-market trading after AstraZeneca announced preliminary results for a phase 3 trial of lung cancer treatment. While the drug compared well to a competitor on one end, the data for overall survival was not mature, and pointed toward the results being not satisfactorily significant. AstraZeneca said in a press release that trial will continue according to the company. United States Airline, the airline stocks trading marginally higher before the bell, even after the carrier bared the brunt of the flight delays occurring nationwide over the holiday weekend. Chinese internet stocks, share of China-based technology stocks gained before the bell, lifting the CoinShares CSO China Internet ETF. Alibaba, Pinduoduo on GD.com shares gain 1.9%, 3.2%, and 3.1% respectively, which is not bad. The gain came amid news that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is planning to meet with senior Chinese officials in Beijing later this week. Energy stocks should be up because of the heat crisis. Energy stock again in pre-market trading, lifted by rise of oil price after top exporters cut supply. Halliburton and ConocoPhillips added about 1% each. Chevron, Devon Energy, and Occidental Petroleum also moved higher. So everything is up, so it's not so bad. Oh, this is bad. Americans get poor as expense surge. Like, everybody is getting poor. Americans are getting poorer as expenses climb and saving dwindle, according to a new survey from Lending Club Corporation, the parent company of Lending Club Bank, a digital market bank. In May 2023, the Fed released the economic well-being of U.S. households in 2022, the latest edition of a report commonly used in measurement of financial well-being. Since 2013, these annual reports have tracked consumers' that is ability to afford a theoretical $400 emergency expense, a number that seems outdated in today's economy environment. Lending Club and PYM and TS have examined these issues into 2022 and have found that $400 benchmark does not accurately reflect today's consumer experience per a press statement. In fact, 2/3 of the unexpected expense consumer experience costs more than the benchmark $400, with 41% spending double that amount or more, which is a lot because it's like 800%. Furthermore, the average emergency expense was approximately $1,700, reflecting a year growth of 16%. It's a lot. How now this study demonstrates and reveals how unexpected expenses are surging for consumers. Alia Duboum, an expert with Lending Club, says the study ultimately shows that the Fed's $400 emergency expense benchmark, which has remained the same for 10 years, is no longer an accurate figure to use when assessing consumers' overall financial well-being, as it doesn't factor in inflation over the last decade and address the macroeconomic volatility we've seen since the beginning of the pandemic. For example, she added 2/3 of the unexpected expenses consumer experience cost more than the benchmark $400, with 41% spending double that amount or more. The reality is nearly half. 46% of the U.S. consumers said they face an unexpected emergency, and the cost of that expense average $1,700. We're seeing a false sense of security where consumers feel they have enough saving and or available cash to cover unexperienced expenses. The question is, as unexpected emergencies become more frequent and the cost for those expenses continue to rise, have consumers really prepared enough? And will the same saving level from previous year be enough to have them navigating the future? So that's crazy. From July 22 to May 20, on average, vehicle repairs have increased about $260. Health-related occurrences have increased by about $100. Unexpected high bills or taxes have risen by over $1,000. And house-related issues of relocation have risen about $150. A financial situation alongside the cost of the repair affects how the individual can actively pay for these expenses. For example, 51% reportedly paying with cash or with money from the savings, while 33% use financing or alternative sources, and even fewer use of the credit card. 25 and even fewer use credit cards, remove the balance or use installments. How does age impact preparedness for unexpected emergency? According to Doom, the research finds that nearly 46% of the consumers have faced inexpensive emergencies, with millennials, high-income consumers facing them at an even higher rate. Most unexpensive expenses are related to necessary repairs or replacement, so it's not surprising that affluent consumers who own vehicles and homes face this most often. In fact, consumers earning more than $100,000 annually were 34% more likely to have faced this expenses than their lower income counterparties, of course. Also, she reports that high income and millennial consumers are generally a peak earning period in their career, supporting growing families while paying off mortgages, car loans, and other debts. And with all expenses, inflation impacts emergency expenditures, which again is increasing the average emergency spend well above the Federal Reserve 400 benchmark. How can people start the plan to be more prepared for unexpected financial need? Doom says there are a few steps an individual can take to start the process of getting a handle of their spending or moving towards building an emergency saving plan, paying down their debt, and then moving towards saving for retirement. Build and fuel an emergency fund. 1. Build and fuel an emergency fund regularly. If the last 3 years after does anything, is that the unexpected will happen and emergencies are unavoidable. Start by setting aside money monthly, especially for emergencies. Aim to save at least 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses. 2. Minimize your debt. She advised to prioritize spending off high interest debts such as credit cards and reduce the urge to revolve of those cards and pay off the full balance every month. 3. Find opportunities to enhance your saving. For example, many banks, including Lending Club, offer high-yield saving accounts with an annual percentage yield of over 4%. If you have money sitting in a saving account that doesn't yield you at least that, consider changing to one that does, so you can possibly make more. 4. Revise your insurance coverage. Since we know emergencies happen, do them stress it's always a good idea to review your insurance coverage, such as health insurance, homeowners, or renters insurance, and car insurance, to ensure that you have adequate coverage to protect you and your family in case of emergencies. Okay, so that's not good, but we are half there. 28. My butt hurts and my back hurts. Well, I just croak, still growing. As it's turning edge milestone. Where is the crocodile? An Australian wildlife park claims to have the world's largest and possibly oldest crocodile in captivity, estimated to have lived for 120 years, with plenty more time to go. Wow. Cassius is much a magnificent, beautiful boy, and he's obviously got a major history to tell us. Says Sally Heisbergs, managing director at the Centre of Crocodile Research in Australia. He's happy, healthy, he has such a personality, he gets called over the one side on the pen and they're just happy to wander over. He's an absolutely fascinating character. Captured in 1984 near the city of Darwin and transferred to Green Island, in a few years later, the crocodile Cassius has lived at the Maryland Crocodile Park over 35 years, estimated to have lived at least 110 years. Well, it should be free. What makes Cassio so unusual is that he has continued to grow despite his remarkable age. During an annual checkup this year, Professor Graham Webb determined that Cassius had grown another 13 inches since his previous visit, nearly 20 years earlier, now measuring a whopping 17 feet and 11.75 inches. He was a big old, not like crocodile then. Crows of that size are not normal, saying that growing at such an advanced age is unusual for a big croc. Exercise ring closed, so kudos to me because I didn't want to do it today. Well, I never want to exercise anyways, but let's do it for the health and the body, to get back the body when we were 23 or something like that. Webb had determined during his first visit that Cassius was at between 30 and 80 years old, which would mean he could be at least 120. But there is no way to fully determine the croc's age. Marinaren told Fox News Digital that the annual assessment is very hands-off, as the use of restraints can cause stress due to heightened fight or flight response. Of course, generally these assessments are done through observation in person and by looking at observation records kept at the keepers. The recent assessment for Cassius found him fine, with no immediate cause of concern and no reason to believe Cassius will not live for years to come. So cute. The oldest crocodile on record was a croc known as Freshie, who made it to 140 years old in captivity despite being shot twice in the tail and left eye. Oh, people should stop, killing animals and killing other people too, because there's so many killers everywhere. Gideon Coban joins Amazon as director for Prime Video Africa. Maya Jama reigns supreme in ultra sheer Gucci dress from Now It Is. Vodka pickles to browse what Americans reveal at the 4th of July. Cook card must have. 7 advanced GPT prompts, writing tips you need to know. This is kind of cool. Let's see. I love ChatGPT and Midjourney and all the possibilities you have to do with artificial intelligence, even though I've lost all my work because everybody and all companies and everybody is using artificial intelligence to translate. It's kind of fascinating that you just can do a lot more with it. So let's see what this says. Here's how level up your ChatGPT usage. 1. Specify output format. When you ask a question or give an assignment to ChatGPT, you can specially tell how it formats the reply. Imagine that you're giving an assignment to a student, where you might specify how the assignment is to be formatted when turning. Here's some examples. What are the longest highways in the United States? List one of the top 4 in the form of a bullet list. ChatGPT. The top 4 longest highways in the US are Interstate 19, I-90, stretching approximately 3,020 miles. It spans from Seattle, Washington to Boston, Massachusetts. Second, US Route 20, US 20, covering about 3,365 miles. It extends from Boston, Massachusetts to Newport, Oregon. US Route 6, US 6, with a length of approximately 3,207 miles. It runs from Provincetown, Massachusetts to Bishop, California. And US Route 30, US 30, spanning around 3,073 miles. It goes from Atlantic City, New Jersey to Astoria, Oregon. You can ask him to present that in information table. So you have certainly, here's the information presented in a table. Says GPT, highway, Interstate 19, US Route 20, US Route 6, US Route 30, length approximately 3,020 miles, 3,365 miles, 300. That's kind of cool. So it makes a table for you. Please note that the length provided are approximate values. tell it to format in HTML. Oh, you can specify a lot about how the results are displayed. For example, you can have it generate a table which can incorporate into a web page. Wow. What are the longest highways in the United States? List only the top 4 present results at HTML. And they give you the HTML so you can put it in a website. It's crazy. Here's where it's interesting. You can also have that information presented using whatever style of HTML you like. There's a school of web design that does like the traditional table tags and prefer to present tables in the form of CSS. Here's that version. Present information, but see essence instead of table tags. Wow. And it gives it to you. 3. Iterate with multiple attempts. You often need to work with AI to help it get to the result you want. Take your previous CSS results. Here's what it look like. Unfortunately, that's not as pretty as I like. Let's see if we can remedy it. Redo that, but please make sure the columns are all aligned. Make the headings a darker blue with white lettering presented in all capitals and bold. Make each data row a light gray, but vary of the levels of gray. So row 1 is light gray, row 2 is slightly darker, row 3 is light gray, and so on. Make sure the highway name is presented in bold. And that's amazing because it does exactly that. Let's try again. That output looks really good, but the columns are still not aligned. Make sure the columns are wide enough to accommodate the text without wrapping. Left align everything and make sure all the columns, including the headlines, are perfectly aligned. And that's it. It's almost actually what we're looking for, but the root is wrapping. Let's see if we can fix that. Don't ever assume this is easy, but if you're ever taught programming to humans, it's actually sort of result you get back. It sometimes seems like they're being passive aggressive, but it's more likely that you didn't specify your requirements carefully enough. Wow. 4. Don't be afraid to use long prompts or sets of prompts. It looks like a few iterations, but put together a prompt that really will generate highway information in the format I wanted. One key approach is to make sure your prompt is very specific, but also expansive enough to have enough information for the large language model to fully understand what you're asking. You may also need to modify your specification. I wound up removing the line. Create a table that uses only CS format rows, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I just told it I wanted the table to look and let it decide how to implement it fully. It does. I'd like you to create an HTML document. The document will meet the following requirements. Make the headings, I don't see, I need to make it bigger. Make the headings a dark blue with white lettering presented in all capitals and bold. Make each data row a light gray, but vary of the levels of gray. So row 1 is light gray, row 2 is slightly darker, row 3 is light gray, and so on. Make sure the columns are wide enough to accommodate the text without wrapping. Do not allow the text to wrap. Left align all text. Be sure all the columns, including the headings, are perfectly aligned. It is important to stress that the table columns are aligned, so each cell is directly under the one above it. Populate the above table according to the following instruction. Present a list of the longest highways in the US. Limit your answer to only the top of 4. Create a column for the highway name, length, and route. Create rows for each individual highway specification. Be sure to present this as a columnar table. Be sure all the data is presented in rows or columns that perfectly align. I wrote that prompt in some text, a text editor, and then paste it into ChatGPT. Here's the result, which is exactly what I wanted. Wow, perfect. As you can see, it chose to add a little, which was fine. But now that I have a working prompt, I can add some additional tweaks. For example, I went back and modified the column specifier. Create columns for index number, label it, name, and route. I tried changing limit your answer to only top of 4 to limit your answer to only top of 20, but I refuse to fill in the data for all 20. So I removed that line entirely and added a new line that very one. For the purpose of this project is provide full data results for top 20 iOS. And here we go. Wow. 5. Provide explicit constraint to a response. You saw how modify some response constraint to the number of answers and the columns I wanted to present, but you can also use constraint for more open-ended question as well. Also, human or bot, this Turing test can put your eye-spotting skills to the text. There are limits to this type of prompt. For example, take this prompt. Provide a summary of the key events in World War II as reported by major newspapers at the time. Because the model wasn't trained on newspaper of World War II, it's unable to answer the question. Likewise, you can specify a result from the last few years, since the model data entry end into 21. Let's say you can specify data that is within the scope of the model, like this major space mission between 2010 and 2020. 40. Know that we are limiting by date, but we can add for the constraint. Let's limit to just those from the US. This major space mission conducted by NASA between 2010 and 2020. You can also go back to the formatting approach we discussed and do something like list all major space mission conducted between 2020 and 2010, group them by nation on space agency, make the name of the nation on space agency bold, and you can get even more explicit here. We can include continents and specify any continent without mission be excluded from the list. List all major space missions conducted between 2010 and 2020. Group them by continent. Make the name of the continent bold and all capital letter. Make the nation and space agency name bold with either title case or all caps, if that's how the space agency format is named, like NASA. If a continent did not have a space mission, do not include it on this list. Interestingly, the AI decided to have a bit of a hallucinatory moment. It properly listed the mission and continents, but decided Russia is a continent. I ran it in a second session, and that time it didn't think Russia was a continent. 6. Telling number of words and characters. Speaking of constraints, you may have noticed that ChatGPT tends not to be accurate when it comes to word count. If you tell it to limit your answer to 50 words, it sometimes goes long or short. That's because the language model works in tokens, representation of data, that not directly correspond to individual words. Also, for example, when I told ChatGPT to summarize the Game of Thrones TV show, I got back 291 words over 6 paragraphs. But you can try to limit the response. Try out a variety of limiting terms until you determine what works best for you. For example, summarize the Game of Thrones TV series in 50 words. Summarize the Game of Thrones TV series in a sentence. Summarize the Game of Thrones TV series in less than 200 characters. Summarize the Game of Thrones TV series so it will fit in a tweet. Is another place to keep in mind the restriction of AI models. GPT contains no training data after 2021. At that time, a tweet was limited to 280 characters. But as for February 2023, Twitter Blue subscriber can have tweets as long as 4,000 characters. Telling ChatGPT to fit something in a tweet tells it to limit to the response to 280 characters because that's what the limit back in 2021. 7. Give the AI the opportunity to evaluate its answers. As we've often discussed, the AI often hallucinates, providing very long answers. It is possible to construct conversation with the AI to arrive at a more precise answer by letting it provide intermediate conclusion. Take this simple request. Word similar to the verb that begins with B. Okay. As difficult as it might be to imagine, ChatGPT relatively fails with this request, often answering decay, degrade, degenerate, and other words that begin with D. There are a couple of sentences which is separately wrong. First, devolve has multiple meanings. It can mean transfer, delegate, deteriorate, or decline, or inherit, or receive by succession. To get a proper answer, we need to be more specific and give the general meaning we want it to pursue. It also doesn't hurt to help it determine meaning by telling it we're looking for a verb rather than a noun. Generate a verb that starts with the letter B and has a similar meaning to devolve, especially indicating the idea of something deteriorating or getting worse. The problem is ChatGPT has a very difficult time, again, due to how represent knowledge tokens of determining the first letter of a word. So it's best to give the AI to figure that out. Determine the first letter of a generated verb. This is what AI experts call giving it time to breathe, rather than just rushing out with its first answer. This approach gives the AI time to consider whether its answer is correct. Because AI may not come up with the right answer the first time, ask it to repeat the steps until it does. Perform the following steps until 3 is resolved. 1. Generate a verb that starts with a letter B and that's similar meaning to the verb, especially indicating the idea of something deteriorating or getting worse. 2. Determine the first letter of the generated verb. 3. If the letter is not B, repeat step 1 and 2. Okay, that's kind of smart. And here it works. It way through until it finds an answer. I see. So ChatGPT says, oh, so it's going through and generate words until it's a B. I see, that's smart. Notice how it took the AI 6 tries before it found the right word, even though the criteria existed for the entire sequence. The second double check, breathe, give it the opportunity to evaluate its answer and continue it until succeed. Final thoughts. One thing that's really important to note is that AI won't necessarily do what you want right out the gate. On the last example, it took me almost 2 hours and about 20 tries to find a formula that will work for it to really generate the result. While we're at it, keep in mind that the AI remembers what went on in this current session. So while it might give you the right answer in the current session, the acid test is copying your prompt to a brand new session or seeing if it works here. Stay tuned. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's a lot of trying, seeing what it shows and everything. What? California man charged with tricking, killing girls swimming in river. So I've been like lately watching all these true crime TV shows and it's like crazy. I don't know if there's more crime here in America because America has so much people and we're so many that there's more crime, or I don't know, because when I was living in France or in Venezuela there was no such many stories of that kind. So let's see what happened. A California man has been charged with manslaughter for allegedly hitting and killing a girl who was swimming in the Colorado River last year. A 7-year-old girl, or baby, was swimming near the shore on Memorial Day weekend 2022 at Buckskin Mountain State Park, a recreational area that straddles the California-Arizona border. Prosecutors from the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office say Arthur V. Garcia, 38, of Indio hit the girl while boating. She was taken to a hospital where she died. Who would do that to a baby girl? Doesn't make any sense. These guys are perverts and, you know, mental deficient. I don't know if people all mean like mental health programs, and I don't know what's going on. San Bernardino County Sheriff deputies arrested Garcia at the time and accused him of reckless and negligent boating on the day of offense. Oh, of course, drug addict. A year later, prosecutors filed multiple felony charges against Garcia, including willful causing a child to suffer, reckless and negligent operation, and manslaughter with a vessel. Recourse also faces an national misdemeanor charge of recklessness and negligent operation. Yeah, well, I hope he finishes life in jail or get the death penalty, because for that kind of people, I do believe in death penalty. LA cop defies chief's order to not post guns online, US weapon in wedding photos. Okay, what's going on? An LAPD officer suing her superiors use her big day to fire back at the orders demanding she refrain from posting pictures of guns to social media. Tony McBride, whose Instagram account is private, posted a photo of herself holding a semi-automatic rifle along her husband to the platform last Thursday in defiance of the department she claims discriminated against her based on her sex. McBride's photo comes just 2 days after she filed an amended complaint in a lawsuit against the department and Chief Michael Moore, claiming he blocked promotions from her after she refused to take down photos and videos containing guns and shooting competitions, according to the LA Times. Well, the photos are like, I'm an anti-gun person, so for me, there's nothing pretty to see and nothing beautiful to see on that. The competitive shooter alleged in her pending suit that her superiors requested to remove the photo contrasted with the treatment her mail colleagues received. So if it's true and if she is not allowed on her mail, um, and my colleagues do, then there is a problem. Because I'm against for everybody, not only for her. The lawsuit maintained that the male LAPD officer posted similar content frequently but received no retaliation. The suit also claims that Moore trained the surprise job with an ultimatum that she remove the photos and video of organ-related activity or lose her job. Chief Moore told Officer McBride that he wanted her to cease posting videos on social media. He said that Officer McBride needed to choose between being an LAPD officer or posting social media videos. Well, the city of Los Angeles moved to dismiss the suit last month, according to the Times. Plaintiff did not, in fact, cite to any post was she ever made, which she content actually constitute assessment concerning a matter of public concern. If the court were to accept plaintiff's contention that any statement involving gender on guns in speech concerning a matter of public concern, and by way of example, photos of LAPD officers in the battling suites holding weapons will be statements in public concern. McBride first entered the posting in 2020 when she was declared of any wrongdoing after repeatedly shooting and killing 30-year-old suspect Daniel Hernandez for advancing towards her while wielding a box cutter. Oh, that's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Meghan and Harry. I used to love Meghan Markle when she was doing Sweet. I love her in that show. I'm a little fed up with the narrative of victims they're having. So, let's see what it says. Meghan Markle's personal project could go into trouble as Prince Harry decided to leave the US. The Duchess of Sussex, who is reportedly working on the preview of Great Expectations for Netflix, will not be able to survive without her husband. Royal author Angela Levin tells GB News, it's interesting that Meghan is working on doing a preview really of Charles Dickens' book, Great Expectation, and she is doing it as a feminist living in a man's world. So, it's before she left at the altar, and you think it's not going to work before it even go anywhere, because it's going to be about Meghan's life and men in a very difficult community, and it's not fair and it's not right. Mrs. Levin continued, everything on Great Expectations since the first film in 1946 has proven to be absolutely hopeless. So she is going to do that. She is staying in America. Meanwhile, Prince Harry is keen to carry on his charitable ventures in Africa. Miss Levin adds, Prince Harry wants to go to Africa and talk about the people and the animals and all that, which he loves. It's called his second home. He feels very happy in that. Yes, because I thought Prince Harry was following his mother's steps and continuing Lady Diana or work. The credit crunch is getting worse and bankruptcy are on the rise. CNN. The strength and resilience of U.S. economy during the first half of the year defined the expectation of economists who largely expected the country to fall into recession. Still, many expect the second half of the year to bring some volatility as Federal Reserve policymakers indicate they plan to continue making painful interest rate hikes. While inflation rates are slowly falling, prices pressure persists, and the Fed has hinted that its benchmark interest rates will stay higher for longer. 53. Banks also look set to continue tightening lending standards in the second half of the year. That will make it more difficult and costly for some small and mid-sized business and U.S. households to secure funding. Corporate bankruptcies are on the rise, and so are consumer debt delinquencies. Delinquencies rose among all days past due, categorized on a year-over-year basis, jumping from 0.16% of loans in May 2022 and 0.25% in May 2023, according to the latest monthly credit analysis from VantageScore. So are we entering a credit crunch before the bell spoke with the the regional credit condition share, blah blah blah. I'm tired, in fact. I wanted to see what's going in France today, but I don't know. Let's see if Google News can see France. Okay, France riots is as major as anti-violence rally. BBC News. Riots in France appear to be calming after 5 days of violent protests in response to the shooting of teenage boy Nael during a police traffic stop. Sunday night, surveillance subsided and fewer arrests were made. However, President Emmanuel Macron has asked the Interior Ministry to keep a massive police presence on the street. On Monday, measures call for police to be held outside town out of protest of violence looting. Yes, because after the policeman killed this teenage boy at a traffic stop a few days ago, there was massive riots. Everything was burning. They got crazy, and then yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't remember, some crazy people just tried to kill this poor major's wife and sons in his house by sending I don't know how you say that, like a car in flames into the house, and the mom has to leave the house, take the kids barefoot, try to move around the garden, and she fell and she hurt so bad that she has to have knee surgery, and very bad. She cannot walk for 3 months, and these people should be arrested and go to jail forever too, because it's like, trying to kill someone. So this is gone like crazy, and the problem is that it's been like that since 2005, I think, where there was a massive riot. So the problems are not solved, the problems are the same, and if we keep having the same also race and racist and racism in the police, then we'll keep having these young people killed and these riots, and nothing is gone well. In non-internal, sometime Major Patrick Jerry said the past, police violence has subsided, but added that we wouldn't lose sight of the incident and spark the situation on the continuing need for justice. Later in the afternoon, several hundred people attended a rally in Les in support of Vincent Jeanbrun, the major whose home was attacked by rioters who fired rockets at his fleeing wife and children, breaking her leg and injuring one of the children. The incident is being treated as attempted murder, that's what I was saying. A visibly emotional Mr. John Brown said, "We saw the real faces of the rioters. They are murderers. They wanted to kill my wife and my 2 young children in their sleep by burning them alive." To applause, Mr. John Brown also said that the last week democracy itself was attacked, and in the majority of people who have so far been silent to say enough. While Sunday night was far calmer, authorities were careful not to prematurely hail a return to normally on Monday. Buses and trams in the Paris region will again be halted early on Monday night, while President Macron has asked the Ministry of the Interior to maintain a massive police presence in France in order to guarantee a return of calm. About 45,000 officers have been deployed across the country for the past 3 nights and will be out on the street again on Monday, Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin confirmed. So that's very bad for tourism, because this is when people go to Paris and visit Paris. So this is bad. More than 100 people were arrested on Sunday night, compared with more than 700 the night before. There were 297 cars set on fire, compared with Thursday's 1,900, while 34 buildings were damaged or set ablaze, compared with more than 500 on Thursday. It's crazy. At the weekend, the family of Niall, the teenager who was killed by police, called for violence to end. His grandmother accused rioters of using Niall's death as an excuse and urged them to stop destroying public goods. Another relative told the BBC that the family did not want his death to spark riots, but Instead, the law around lethal force at traffic stops must change. She also said her heart is in pain about the GoFundMe page for the family of the police officer who shot Nahel, which also on Monday has raised more than 1.5 million euros and was growing steadily. So there is two GoFundMe pages, one for the kid that was killed and one for the policeman that is in jail right now. And because France is still a country that is pretty much racist, well, the GoFundMe page for the man who killed the young, it has all over 1 million euros, and the poor family kid that was killed has only 100,000, I think. So, you know, I'm happy I left, and I'm very happy I'm in California, even though we have problems here too. But you know, this kind of racism is very hard to see and very hard to accept. The fundraiser, which was part of the far-right media commentator, has been criticized by several politicians, but the platform from French newspaper, The Parisien, that the GoFundMe's terms and conditions were not being broken because the funds are destined for the officer's family and not meant for the legal defense of an alleged violent crime, because he is a killer. A fundraiser for Nael's family was set up on different platforms and had raised $215,000 on Monday afternoon. Meanwhile, French regional authorities are starting to announce financial support measures for low-tier businesses and hospitality venues. In the region of Marseille, business owners will be able to apply for a 10,000 one-off grant, while the Paris region has blocked 20 million to help restore the public buildings that were damaged and looted. But there are some concerns that spate of violence might have a long-term effect on the tourism sector just after the summer season begins. French media outlet Le Point quoted a tourism official as estimating that up 25% of the hotel booking in Paris has already been cancelled. François Réal said that the riots pose a real risk to the image of France. This is true even if the unrest subsidies has many tourists or allergic tourists. On Tuesday, President Macron will meet the mayors of 220 municipal areas that have been affected by the violence. It's crazy. So that was today. So I was talking about systemic racism in the police, and they're saying, so this is the answer from the French police and government. It's not an article, it's a video, so see that later. At the same time, there is the Tour of France stage 3, and we already made it. It's 62, we made an hour, and that's not so bad, me reading the news actually. So bye bye people, I see you tomorrow. Thank you.